So we're going to do 0 to 60. Welcome to Tech in the Car. This is the 2022 Audi RS3. Let's start off looking at this grille at the front here. So this is a massive grille. This is all blacked out. It's probably the biggest grille you can get on any Audi right now. And it's got these Quattro inspired vents at the front under the bonnet. We've got these lines across the bonnet, which makes it look super sporty. And these newly designed matrix LED lights. This is the launch edition version of the Audi RS3, which costs £57,000. You are able to find them online for over £70,000. Don't buy from anyone who's selling for £70,000 because that is ridiculous. This is an amazing car, but its list price is £57,000 in the launch edition, not £70,000. But this is a really good looking front grille. It stands out. This is the only Audi model which has a blacked out grille like this all the way across the lights. And we have these matrix LED lights which have an RS3 on startup on the matrix. On the standard lights, which are LED, they don't, but on the matrix it has the RS3 logo, which is fantastic attention to detail, which I love. This car also has a driver assistance pack, so we've got the driver assistance down there, and we have a space where there would be a 360 camera if this car had it, but it doesn't. Unfortunately, Launch Edition doesn't have that. What the Launch Edition does get though is a load of other cool stuff: heads-up display, matte black wheels, red brake calipers, driver assistance pack, electric seats. But the RS3 does have a lot of kit even on the standard model as standard, so it's actually pretty good value for money considering. And let's talk about the performance. So I do a launch, check out my launch in this video. This car has 400 PS, that's about 394 horsepower, though it's probably about 400. In the US, it's quoted at 401 horsepower. So it's probably the same engine, they just quote a different figure, don't quote me on that though, and 500 Newton meters of torque, which is more torque available lower down in the power bracket, so you can feel that when you're driving. In fact, I could feel that when I was driving it in this video, so check that out as well. And that means this car officially can do 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. Find out how fast I did it in the video, but it was very close to that, I can tell you that much. Audi's really done a fantastic job with these wheels on the new RS3. On this launch edition, you get matte black. On the Vorsprung, you get it with a graphic design. And on the standard edition, you get it with a silver 10-spoke design. These are probably the best design wheels on any Audi car to date. And with these red brake calipers as well, it just looks fantastic. Red brake calipers in the UK, only available on the launch edition. You can't spec it separately, unfortunately, which is a real shame. Tires on this car are Pirelli P0. They're 265/30 ZR19, so they're 19-inch wheels. That's standard on the RS3. At the front here, you can see it's got much wider arches than the typical A3 or S3, and it's obvious they're flared out. And you can actually see the area here, right here, where there's a little U shape which actually pushes out the wheel arches at the front. As you come down the side here, we've got our wheel vent. This reduces air pressure from behind the tires, the wheels. And then we come across here, we've got this V shape, which I showed you in the first look video I did. And then we've got this black kick plate down the side here, which is side skirt, which looks very, very great as contrast with this Camorra Grey RS3 launch edition. As we come back down here again, you can see, so there is definitely a curve here down the side of the body with the side skirts where it kind of curves inwards a bit, but then it comes back out again with the flared rear arches here. Let's talk about the rear design on the 2022 Audi RS3. So this is a saloon, so we've got a little spoiler, we've got silver logos, the Audi logo and the RS logo. Those are black on the Vorsprung and carbon black editions. In some places you can spec them as black. We've got this new light design, which I really like the look of, which when you unlock and lock, it does a little dance just like at the front. One area people didn't like at the back here is this plastic bit on the bumper. Now, on its own, I don't like it. I don't know why Audi did that, but as a holistic design, I think it looks good and it gives nice contrast. Obviously, it lets you put the parking sensors in, and it's another area, I guess, on the rear bumper, which if it gets damaged, you don't have to worry too much about. The other thing too, which is very different on this RS3, is these exhausts. Now, these exhausts have a separate part to them. The tips of these exhausts are not connected to the main exhaust. They're basically just an end. There is a real exhaust in there, but this is very different from other Audis. One thing it does mean is if you damage the back of your car, if you get in an accident, it's easier to repair. The other thing too is they're perforated on the inside now, which looks very, very sporty, and which I think adds to the detail on this car. And this car is very much all about detail. And then we've got this diffuser down here, which doesn't do a lot, but looks good. We've got our 360 camera too back here. Reverse camera on most other models which aren't Vorsprung. So, and in fact, the Vorsprungs had the 360 camera removed, but in some countries, this will be part of the 360 pack. So a really purposeful design at the back and the front and the side. Love the wheels. Let's have a look at the inside now. How much space is there in the back seats of the Audi RS3? and this is the saloon. So this seat is pretty much in the driving position. So there isn't that much space in front of these sport seats in front of me. It would have been nice if there was a bit more space, but if you pushed it forward, you'd be okay. In terms of headroom, you're all right as well. You know, this is a compact saloon, there's no question about it, but it feels very, very special back here because it is an RS car. We've still got Alcantara on the doors. We still have the Bang & Olufsen sound system. We have 2 USB Type-Cs back here. So it's still a really, really nice interior, just not the most spacious. Could you fit a family in here? Yes, you could. Probably be a bit tight. So the next question you might be asking is how much space is there in the back of the RS3 saloon? So you've got enough space for 2 suitcases, 2 large suitcases, some smaller ones. I got my filming equipment back here. Obviously, if you need more practicality and a wider space, then you probably want to go for the sport back. The back seats can go down, so you've got more load through space as well at the back. But this is, you know, great for what it is. A very sporty, practical, performance Audi saloon. Welcome inside the 2022 Audi RS3 saloon. Let's start off by saying what this car does not have. It does not have the design pack, which has red or green effects, including an Alcantara steering wheel, a 12 o'clock stripe, and accents on the seats and on the dashboard. It doesn't have any of that. Having said that, once you're actually in this car, sitting in it and driving it, it still feels special. Would it feel special if I had an S3 before this? I don't know. It does have this carbon fiber effect, which is unique to the RS3. And we've got this big touchscreen in the middle, and we've got actual physical buttons for the climate control, which is a benefit that lots of Audis started removing, and then they brought them back with the e-tron GT. Check my video on that. And then we've got our drive select, our stability off control, our auto on off button. We've got our hazard lights, and we've got our parking sensors, and we've got our automatic parking, because this car can park itself as well. In the middle here, we've got our gear selector, which is kind of a little nubby thing you pull backwards and forwards, which I'm not a huge fan of. We've got a parking button, which is just a button in the middle here. There's no button actually for auto hold. It seems that this car automatically does auto hold for you, which is a nice thing to make it easier. We do have the handbrake button down here, and then we've got our start button right here. So it's got physical buttons and a touchscreen, which is a good thing. When we look at the steering wheel, this steering wheel is actually slightly simpler than the previous generation RS3. Yes, it's round. For everyone that's concerned about it being round, it still feels really, really nice. It still feels really, really high quality. It's got a silver metallic feel here, and the gear shifters are metal as well. So it still feels very, very nice with the perforated leather around here. In terms of controls, it's a bit more simpler. We have a forwards and backwards button, a view button, and 2 scroll wheels. And then we've got our phone and our voice control button. And we've got our RS button, which lets you go into either RS individual, RS performance. But if you want to go into RS torque rear to activate the drifting mode, then you have to do that in the main menu system, and check out my infotainment video to see how that works. These seats are super comfortable. They're a big improvement over the previous generation Super Sport seats. They feel really, really nice. And on this launch edition, both the front seats are electric with lumbar support as well. The only thing they don't have is memory functionality, which exists on the Vorsprung version. This design up here with kind of the hexagons reminds me a bit of a Lamborghini. It's fine. You know, like, the interior of this is better than the previous generation. There's no question about that. And when I get into my previous generation RS3, it won't be as nice as being in here, although I still have the amazing noise of the engine. Talking about the noise of the engine, it definitely pumps some sound into this car that you don't get on the previous generation. It's not necessary though, because it's still a 5-cylinder engine and it still makes amazing noises. So, you know, that's one thing I wish Audi hadn't done. The sound system on here, the Bang & Olufsen, which is on the Comfort and Sound Pack, which is included with the launch edition, sounds fantastic. It's better than the previous generation. That I am very, very sure about. Overall inside, it's super, super nice in here. Super, super high quality. You feel super comfortable and secure when driving. Panoramic glass sunroof adds to it, and we also do have a head-up display here, which again adds to the feeling inside of being in a more luxurious car and a more sporty car too. So that was the different modes on the car with the exhaust. As you can hear, there's no pops and bangs because there's a limiter, and due to restrictions with emissions, this car no longer does that when stationary. Obviously when driving it does do it, and you can hear it when driving. I was asked if I put it into dynamic when I turned it off, if the valves would stay open. The answer is no. Just like on the previous generation, they will close automatically. You can't start it in dynamic mode. You have to change it after you started the car up. Let's have a look at some of the unique stuff on the RS3 Saloon. So first of all, let's start off going to the car settings and let's look at car. So you can see here we have our Audi Drive Select RS monitor, efficiency assist, normal AC, normal lights vision, normal parking, driver assist, and favorites. So obviously the stuff which is unique to this car is the driver assist stuff. So obviously the stuff that's unique to this car is the Drive Select stuff. So we've got our efficiency mode, comfort, auto, dynamic. If we go into RS individual, we can then change the torque splitter to be dynamic, balanced, comfortable, drive system to be efficient, balanced, dynamic, suspension to be comfortable, balanced, dynamic, and the steering to be comfortable, balanced, dynamic, and the engine sound to be automatic or pronounced, and then the stability control on or dynamic. You can do that in RS individual mode. In RS performance mode, you can also do a similar thing, dynamic or comfortable suspension, steering, and ESC. So all the other stuff is automatically decided by the car. And if we go into RS Talk rear, it says do not use it on public roads, switch the ESC off for advanced functions. So if we turn the ESC off, holding it down, now it's off. And now we go into RS Talk rear. So we're now in RS Talk rear, and all of the safety stuff is off. And now I can drift the car. If I was able to drift the car, obviously I'm not drifting the car in the car park. If we also then go into our RS monitor, you can then see our car temperature, oil, coolant temperature, and gear oil, and it's color coded, so you can see whether it's hot or overheated or warm. We've got our G meters, and we've got our tire pressures, which will show only above 16 miles per hour. And that is the RS functions on the main screen. Obviously, it's all about the actual driving and not about the settings here. Let's have a look at the different options in the virtual cockpit. So this is our standard round dials view, and I can go down here and I can go across and get my maps view, and that's, you know, standard round. If you like it round, you can have it round. Obviously, it's still got sporty numbers, and you can change what is shown on the screen there if you want to. Now, if we go into RS performance mode, we now get our sort of boomerang shape design, which is very standard on all the other RS models. And that allows you to obviously have the maps on one side and the power torque on the other side, and you can reduce it down to get a larger display, just like you would expect to have. And we can obviously scroll through this information, phone, etc., tire pressure, no problems. And then we can change to RS runway. So this is the new mode, which is only on the RS3. I'm guessing it will come to other RS models as new ones come out, but the RS3 is the newest. And this includes the runway design with the 2 rev counters going up and down, and which goes in reverse when you rev the car. So it comes from the top down to the bottom, which is an interesting design. And then you can, of course, reduce that in space as well. And then, of course, we've got our head-up display in front, and that will also change with the modes. So if I go into RS performance mode, that will change the head-up display as well. So it's really, really nice to have all these options. The virtual cockpit was already the best virtual display for driver's control on any car, and they just added to it and made it even better. The other thing too I want to bring attention to, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but we have really nice mood lighting in this car, just like on the A3. And, you know, check out my friend CRD. He's got a ton of videos on the new A3, and it's definitely worth looking at his guides to that car and this car, because it's the same series. I was asked a question about the interior lighting. Well, here is the interior lighting. You can see quite clearly. I've got it set up in red and blue like my channel. So here's the middle section here with the red contour lighting. And as you can see, because this is a launch edition, this has a wireless charging and the phone box, which is not available on any other UK models. And on the side here, you can see the door lights and the colors underneath. So it's very bright, it's very nice. The other question I was asked was about these seats. Do they feel special without the contrast stitching? Can you see the diagonal pattern which is going on? Well, I'm sure you can see quite happily the diagonal pattern here. These still feel incredibly special and they're incredibly comfortable, as you will have heard me say when I was driving the car. So, you know, it's still a special interior even without the colored design pack features, although I would like the design pack. This is the 2022 Audi RS3 and I am going over a speed bump now in comfort mode, and that feels a lot smoother and a lot more comfortable than my car. The suspension on this after 30 seconds feels better than on the previous generation RS3, and my previous generation had the adaptive suspension. This of course is the launch edition, which comes with the adaptive suspension, which comes with the driver assistance pack, which comes with electric seats, which comes with a head-up display, which comes with a panoramic sunroof, which comes with red brake calipers. And the suspension, like I said, feels immediately better than on my car, which also had the adaptive suspension. So I'm in auto mode now. I started off in auto mode because that's generally how people will drive this car. So let's drive it in auto mode. It's a sunny day today, and we're just gonna have a little drive and see how it feels compared to the previous generation RS3. And I can tell you that in terms of driving straight off the bat, it feels very similar. To be expected, right? To be expected. Just the suspension is a lot better. Like immediately, suspension is significantly more compliant than on the previous generation. It feels significantly better over bumps in the road. And this has got the beautiful matte black spoke wheels, which are also part of the launch edition, which look fantastic. They look really, really good. I'm going over bumps here. In my car, they would be shaking me around even in auto mode. So that's a big improvement. I can definitely feel that. Well done, Audi, on the suspension. And I've noticed that with all the new Audis that I've driven recently, the suspension has been a lot better over the big bumps in the road. So that's really good to see. The other thing too is these seats. These seats again feel a lot better than the RS Sport seats in my car. They are, of course, not a new seat for the RS3, but they feel a lot more supportive. They've got more lumbar support. They've got better hold when you're driving, and they just feel a lot better. So that's good. And these are electric, as I mentioned, as part of the launch edition, which means that I was able to adjust them. So on the Vorsprung version, and I know I pronounced that wrong, sorry, I'm not German, there would actually be memory seat function. So on the side of the door here, which I don't know if you can see from the GoPro, there'd be buttons here and I could tap on them and I could actually save my position. So that isn't available on the launch edition. Feels like there's more torque lower down, which I know there is. This car does have more torque lower down. That's one of the changes Audi made, and it has slightly more torque. So let's go through the specs. So 400 PS, so about 395 horsepower, although it might be more than that, and 500 Newton meters of torque. So it's got 20 Newton meters more than the previous generation 8V Audi RS3. And right now, you might be able to see I'm in the RS monitor on this car, so I can see my temperatures, my oil temperature, my coolant levels, etc. But we also have the option to go through to the G meter and then also to the tire pressure loss indicator, so I can see that too. And there are some lucky people that have actually managed to buy launch edition cars like this car. This car is in Kimura grey. You're going to see the outside in a little bit if you haven't already, but there are some people that already had their launch edition cars and have been able to take them home with them. For whatever reason, there seems to be a very large percentage of those in Bradford. I don't know why they all seem to be in Bradford. If you haven't heard of Bradford, then, well, that just proves my point. Why are they all in Bradford? But anyway. But I did borrow this car today from Marshall Audi Coulsdon. So they've got this car, they've got an RS3, they give you great service. So if you're watching this video and you're interested in an RS3, please give them a ring, give them an email, and go and visit them in Coulsdon, Audi Marshall Coulsdon. Right, so we're about to join the M23 motorway. So we're in auto. And I do like this head-up display. So head-up displays aren't new to Audis, but they are new to the A3 model. And this head-up display is very clear, very nice. I can see my speed, I can see my driver assistance. And it's about driver assistance, that's the other thing. People, yes, there is a round steering wheel with the driver assistance pack. It feels very nice. I'm not gonna mark the car down on the round steering wheel. My foot down. immediately you can feel the extra torque. It's not very much, and again, I can feel the torque lower down in the power band. It's an obvious improvement to me to have that lower down torque. I can tell immediately that it's there. Foot down. So you can definitely feel the torque. 100% you can feel that torque going. 100%. It's very, very, very good. So now in RS Performance mode, it turns off the preset, so the emergency stop is turned off. So if you get too close to the car in front, it won't turn on and it won't stop you. So that's really interesting to see that. And now the head-up display change in front of me as well. I've got the gear in big letters, I've got the speed right underneath that, and I've got the oil temperature. So that's interesting to see that the head-up display changes as I go through the modes as well. So RS Performance mode, RS Torque Rear. So now we're in RS Torque Rear. So I mean, I'm not going to be drifting the car on the motorway. So the head-up display stays the same. It does say Torque Rear in the center here on the virtual cockpit, if you can see that on the GoPro behind me. So it does tell you that you're in Torque Rear mode. We can go back into individual and we can go back into performance mode now as well. So now we're in auto mode, and I've got the cruise control with lane assist on as well. So, and now it's steering for me, and it's very, very good. It's it's keeping me in the middle here. It feels more stable than the previous generation. Again, you expect that. The system is newer. It's got better processing power. One of the reasons why these cars are delayed so much is because they've got better processing power. So big call out to my friend Ozum with CRD on his YouTube channel. He did a video about the adaptive cruise and about it adapting to the road ahead. Well, we got that here on the RS3. You can use a speed limit within tolerance and slow down and speed up. And then we also have the adaptation to the route ahead. So if you're using the sat nav built into the car, it will adjust it as well to keep you within those speed limits. So that's interesting. Okay, so we're going to do 0 to 60. So that was 4.1 seconds. There's no doubt that it can go faster than that. Let's talk about the launch. So I did it in 4.1 seconds. That was in not ideal conditions. That was without a proper start, if I'm honest with you. It's clear to me that this car can do it in a lot faster. 3.8 seconds is the official time. If I had a better start, I believe I would have been closer to 3.5 seconds. We've seen other people do launches in about 4.1 seconds. I question the accuracy of the timer on the car when I watch other videos, because 3.1 seconds people launched it in seemed ridiculously fast. But as you can see from my video and my launch, the time on the video and the time on the timer is exactly the same, and so it's accurate. So 3.1 is definitely achievable in this car, which is unbelievably fast. And that 4.1 I did, that felt more than fast enough, even though it wasn't perfect. So I hope you enjoyed seeing the launch, but it can do a lot faster than that. I can promise you that much as I go over a speed bump, which is a lot less of a bump than it is in my car. Okay, let's talk about driving normally. So in normal driving, this suspension is very reasonable over bumps. So I'm on quite a bumpy road now. This would be a lot more bumpy on my own car than it is on this 8Y RS3. It's a big improvement in terms of handling. Now we're in a country lane. Let's see how it handles on the country lane as we're driving down here. Again, back to steering wheel, I have no issues with the steering wheel. The steering wheel is absolutely beautiful. I would love it to be Alcantara, yes, but these metal gear shifters feel really good. Now, if I have one criticism, it has to be that there is definitely some fake noise being pumped into the car, which is such a shame because it doesn't need it, Audi. When this car is accelerating, when you're driving with the valves open, you can hear the noise and you can tell it's a real noise. It comes from the 5-cylinder engine. That's why people love the RS3. So you don't need to put a fake noise into it to get that effect. It's just not necessary. Why do it, Audi? It's just unnecessary, and frankly, it's just kind of a bit disappointing. Now, I'm sure you can turn that off. How is the steering on the new RS3? Well, look, it is very precise. I am in my normal mode, we're in auto, and as I turn the wheel, the car is really pointedly moving around. I mean, like, it's very precise. This is much, much more precise than the previous generation RS3. If I stick it into RS Performance mode, which is what we're in now, it becomes even more precise. The other thing too, and I've mentioned this before, the steering feels very different in terms of the turning circle. I think we've got about 1.5 turns from lock to lock, which is a lot less than on the previous generation RS3. So I'm surprised when I'm turning the wheel that actually is basically stopping. Look, this is 1 turn, that's it. This is 1 turn, and 1.5 turns. So it's really, really got a lot shorter steering ratio than the RS3 previous generation. So it's a bit surprising, like I said, when I'm changing direction and I end up finding out that I thought the wheel would turn slightly more. Obviously, it makes it easier to steer. Overall, this is a very good car, and it is one of the best cars that I've driven on the channel. Now, when I say that, look, I'm biased. I have a previous generation RS3. I love this car already, but in comparison to other cars, I think this is truly a remarkable last generation of the 5-cylinder Audi engine. I think it's probably one of the finest Audis to date. When I compare it to the RS6 and the R8, I just think this is better. I just think this is better. That you can get that kind of performance and that kind of comfort and that kind of utility from a car like this. There's nothing else like it on the market. There really isn't. This is an exceptionally good car, and there's going to be a lot more on this channel on the RS3. Don't worry, obviously I have one coming myself, and I'm going to spend more time with it, and I'm going to learn more about it as time goes. So please do subscribe, please do give me a like, and please do let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more on the 2022 or maybe 2023 RS3 on Tech in the Car. Thank you very much.